You got a tattoo of 4-haired gentlemen.
It's just your face 4 times, right?
Yeah, different, like, I change up, like, my facial hair and my hair a lot, so it's just, like,
So you can
different phases of me.
You go to the barber shop, you're like, I'll take the orange one.
Yeah. Is Billy, actually, the Smashing Pumpkins, if Billy Corgan had hair?
All right, so it's Lennon.
Yep.
John Lennon. George.
Nope.
Ringo.
Nope.
Paul McCartney.
Yep.
George.
Yep.
Harrison and Ringo last.
Yep.
Why'd you put Ringo last?
Well, it depends which way you go. Could have put in Ringo first.
True.
It's literally like it's the Sgt. Pepper like era, and it's like the colors are like the different Sgt. Pepper suits that they were wearing and the facial hair that they had at the time.
Got it.
And that's like the order that they were like sitting in and the
Color
picture
is
that it's
very
taken
good.
from.
Like the camera wouldn't pick it up, but the color is very
it
nice.
pops.
Yeah.
Pops.
It doesn't look like a tattoo. That's how good it
Yeah,
is.
some people are like, "Why did you draw on yourself?"
Yeah.
But this was done like here in Yangzhou. They did
Put
a
stickers
great
on
job.
yourself every day.
Yeah, really committed to it.
What's up with the Beatles? They're good?
Yeah, and it's weird because I have like this like I don't know, you probably call it like a hipster mentality to like I don't like things that are like the best things or whatever, but like again
so you
like
hate
Batman.
good things.
Yeah. No.
You like
Futurama,
good
the
things.
Beatles.
I know, right? Like it doesn't really
Blade
add up
Runner,
at
Harry
all.
Potter.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
The most mainstream thing.
doesn't add up at all. But Ravenclaw,
It's like
not Gryffindor.
Double irony.
Yeah.
So what's up? When did you fall in love with the Beatles?
Well, my dad pretty much established that like since I existed. Yeah, my dad.
Thanks,
like,
Dad.
Yeah, my dad grew up with the Beatles. He was like, he would have been like 10 or 11 years old when like they were on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time. And there's like, my parents have like pictures and videos of me with like a guitar that I don't know how to play, strumming along to like, the Beatles had these movies. One of them was called Help that I was like obsessed with, that I knew and still know like every line from. It was just like, there's them as like musicians, but they were also just so enjoyable as like 4 guys together. Like they could have, had like a sitcom or something. They're just like, their personalities were
They gelled
enjoyable
really
too.
good. Best Beatles album off the top of your head?
I don't know, like
The greatest hits, right?
yeah. every
It's in the name.
yeah. I go through phases now where it's like I get just like obsessed with like a particular album, and it's like whatever I'm listening to a lot at the time. Right now, it's probably Revolver.
How many just straight up studio albums did they have? Not many, right? I mean, not like. I mean, just like.
Hold on, like
not-
studio
not
albums.
like.
Give me a sec here. It's Please Please Me with the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, Help, Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper. I guess Magical Mystery Tour doesn't count. The White Album, Let It Be, and Abbey Road, like 11.
Okay, and
That's quite a lot.
Yeah. In a span of 5-6 years.
right, that's something that's kind of an underrated fact about them. They were super prolific in a short amount of time.
And they worked their fucking like asses off. Like they stopped touring in '66, but that 2 to 3 year buildup was just like every day touring and doing shows and traveling and being like the only time they got free time was like in like a bathroom like by themselves. It's like the only like alone time.
That would never
really.
happen now as well. Like stopping tours. That's
Yeah.
how musicians make most of their money these days. So they would never do that now.
It was the greatest like decision they could have made in a way, because at the time, like if they stopped touring and then they did like Revolver, it's like you can't play those songs live in 1966. The technology just wasn't there. So they probably would have made something that sounded like A Hard Day's Night again or something. Stopping touring allowed them to be in the studio and actually be creative.
Yeah. Playing music live is difficult sometimes if you're too experimental.
Yeah.
And it's the 60s.
Yeah. You even listen to like a song like Nowhere Man that was on Rubber Soul, which is like 1965. And there's videos of them like playing it live, and you don't realize until you're watching them try to play it live how hard it would be, because it's one of the first songs that sounds like it's kind of drenched in pot, because that's what they were like. They met Bob Dylan at a party one time, and he thought that they had already been smoking a lot, and they hadn't, and he got them all baked for the first time. And
Oh wow!
Thanks, Obama.
thanks, Bob Dylan.
What's this? This is gonna make some good albums.
Mhm.
What's do you blame Yoko at all?
No.
Do you hate Yoko?
I mean, you can't
Why do you hate Yoko?
you can't put it on Yoko and then think that John
I've just
is like
heard people
without
say that.
fault.
I don't know.
I don't mean you personally. I just mean for other people. Like, you can't say that Yoko like broke up the Beatles because John was the one who
I mean, he chose
brought
to be in a
her
relationship
in
and
and chose to like, you know, allow her to come to the studio and allow her to have feedback and like.
I think
all
that's
that kind of
kind
stuff.
of like, I like John Lennon and the music, but I think he has such a god complex given
Yeah.
to him from other people
Mm.
that like ignore all the bad parts and blame everything else. Like the fact that he, you know, probably had an unsavory woman beating habit or like alcoholism and all those things.
Yeah.
Then just blame Yoko. Don't blame him at all. It's
Yeah.
kind of,
I mean,
why would you do that?
His childhood is so like fucked up in so many ways.
Yeah.
It obviously doesn't like excuse any of the bad behavior that he exuded, but at the same time, like, he worked like really hard and Yoko helped him become a better person in the ways that he's like, I don't want to be that
And
guy
acid
anymore.
helped, sure.
Yeah, sure. Expanded his mind a
Naked
little
in
bit.
bed, you don't need to get out and you just,
Yeah.
I'll be a better person.
Yeah, they did the naked sit-in.
Yeah.
Was that
Uh,
Vietnam protest or? Which-
I think so.
Which brings me to another, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but I've heard or I've seen that some people think the CIA murdered him.
Oh,
Does that have any bearing?
I don't think so.
What would the purpose be? Why?
Just because
Well-
he was becoming too big in the States and he was very anti-war and it was the 60s.
They tried to have him deported a couple times, and he had to fight to stay in America. His phones were tapped and stuff like that. I still don't think that that's what happened to him.
It was
but-
just a crazy asshole fan.
Yeah.
Who he'd met like the day before or something.
It was like earlier in the day, Mark David Chapman or whatever asked him for, the guy who was obsessed with Catcher in the Rye, asked John for his autograph, I think, and then came back later and like some feet away from him, social distancing, got down on his knee and just like unloaded a clip into his bag.
Damn, that is super crazy.
I mean, and then you have the whole the whole White Album issues with the Manson family, right?
Yeah, like Helter Skelter.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, being an ignorant Brit, all I know is that they wanted to start a race war. Is it just because it's called the White Album?
I don't think so. It's just, I don't know. Like, it's hard to, when a band is that big, especially when they were changing so much.
And
Like, every
dealing with
album sounded different.
dealing with so many themes.
Yeah. And everyone's looking for meaning in the songs, and, like, it has to mean something. Most of the time, John was just, like, fucking with people. And,
Right, they made this song
know.
that was like purposefully just nonsense.
yeah, like Glass Onion.
There's
Like,
a
I told
few-
you
there's
about
a
Strawberry
few.
Fields, the place where nothing is real. And then he
Yeah.
just references a bunch of Paul songs throughout it, and he's like,
Yeah.
the walrus was Paul, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So ranked in order from most talent to least, where are we going?
Like with the four of them?
Yeah.
That's yikes.
Is it the tattoo order, or would George move?
Well, George is my favorite Beatle. I wouldn't say that he was the most, probably wouldn't say he was the most talented one, though. It's just the one that resonates with me the most.
Because he's a Ravenclaw.
I know, like, a lot of people, like, love Paul, but, like, Paul also gets, like, a lot of undeserved, like, shit. It's, like, people, like,
For being vegan or what?
for being alive,
Oh.
and because John's dead, you know, it's like
It's him
John
and Ringo
is
left,
seen in
right?
like a different. It's like he's so much better than, you know, Paul, and I resonate a lot more with John's songs than I do with Paul's a lot of the time, because John tended to, after around Rubber Soul, started to get a lot more honest. He wasn't just making like a song; he was singing about himself. But yeah, Ringo at the bottom, I guess, still a fantastic drummer though.
Did they have were they like a squabbly group? Did they have like, if there was like a behind the music, did they have a lot of drama between them four?
There was a behind the music. It was a documentary they had of them trying to make Let It Be. They were like really, really close, but they like, this is in their early 20s when they were touring and stuff. Like, they always had each other's back, you know. The banter between them was always really good. But when you go from your early 20s with these group of guys, and then all of a sudden, like, women and wives and fame and, like, the ability to start a family, and you're all so talented that you can kind of do your own thing, you start to individualize a bit from the group. I mean, and it was always, like, inevitable that something was going to give, but the Let It Be documentary really shows, like, a lot of, like, John had started, like, doing heroin, like, with Yoko, so his, like, behavior is even more erratic, and he's even more of a dick than he already was.
At the end of the day, they're just humans.
Yeah, exactly.
They were put up on the pedestal, rightfully so. I mean, obviously, they were the biggest band in the world, right?
Yeah.
I like, as far as, like, there's, like, big pop singer like Michael Jackson, but, like, as a band, they've got to be the biggest band ever, right?
Yeah, especially, like, some people, for America's sake, because right after John F. Kennedy was killed, the Beatles, like, made it big, and it was like, America and the world kind of, like, needs this right now. America.
Oh, wow. I didn't.
But, yeah, I don't know.
This was not on purpose.
Beatlemania was just, like, this whole, like, movement of, like, literally insanity, but also, like, hope for a lot of people.
Like, people would
something
cry
good in
when
the
they
world
just
that was
saw
big.
them. Like, that level of
yeah.
celebrity.
And, like, thank you to those, like, crazy fans, because the noise and them not being able to hear themselves is one of the reasons they stopped touring, and then their music got more creative. So.
Got better, yeah. Like, definitely got better. What's your favorite either Beatles movie or movie based around the Beatles?
A Hard Day's Night is the best one, I would say. Like, but I've always had a soft spot for Help, because that's what I was watching when I was, like, 3 years old.
Did you watch the film? Came out last year, yesterday.
I did not like
You
it.
did not.
No.
Oh, what was the issue?
It's kind of just a cheesy premise.
It's very cheesy.
Yeah.
Is that it? Just cheesy?
Yeah, and then, like, they throw, like,
Indian,
Ed Sheeran in there.
Yeah, yeah.
They throw, like, Ed Sheeran in there, and there's, like, this one scene that just, like, pisses me off. And it's like, they're deciding, like, who can write, like, a better song.
Oh, the
and
improvise the song.
Yeah, and then Ed Sheeran writes the song, and then the dude plays The Long and Winding Road, and Ed Sheeran's like, I've been waiting for someone come along to be, like, better than me. And it's like, oh, so you're saying in this movie to everyone right now that
no one is better than you.
You're the
Beatles.
greatest fucking artist in the world.
Was he Ed Sheeran in the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What about Nowhere Boy?
I like Nowhere Boy.
Yeah.
Actually, I usually don't like, I can't remember his name right now.
Aaron
Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of him, like, as an actor, usually, but I haven't seen that movie in a long time either. But I remember liking it despite some of the obvious, like, we're gonna make this more dramatic moments. Like, he punches Paul in the face, which never happened, as much as John maybe would have wanted to from time to time. But
Across the Universe, is that
I
the thing?
love Across the Universe. Yeah.
It's basically like a long music video or something.
It's basically like a musical, yeah. But, like,
but they're not, like, in it, are they?
No.
It's just the
A
music.
couple of films were like that. They had a quota of films they had to meet, so they would, like, the Yellow Submarine as well. I don't think it's anything to do with them much other than the songs.
No, they don't do the voices or
Yeah,
anything
so
like
I
that.
think they just had a quota of films they had to meet, so they pumped these things out.
Yeah, and they were just, the first, like, A Hard Day's Night and Help were directed by Richard Lester, and then they were so, like, we can't do anything wrong by the time Magical Mystery Tour came around, and they did that themselves. Well, Paul mostly did that himself with the rest of their blessings, because they didn't really care, but that was pretty well a disaster.
Yeah.
Worst Beatles song?
What Goes On.
That was passed.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
It's a
Nobody knows.
song,
It's terrible.
a song that they gave Ringo that they threw on Rubber Soul that just, like, isn't good. It's like, what goes on in your life? What goes on?
Yeah.
That's all you
Just a little vapid, like,
It's
throwaway.
Yeah, it bugs me because, like, Rubber Soul is so nearly perfect, but then, like, it's just what goes on. It's like, can we Nowhere Man, please? Yeah.
Best song?
Can't.
No.
There's no way.
Best 3?
Nope.
Okay.
I can barely do, like, best 3 albums. Like, I don't even know if I could do that. So.
Help